Good afternoon and welcome to S24 Insight. Today, we turn our attention to one of the most important questions facing Nigeria and indeed much of Africa. How do we build a society where young people and women are not merely protected but empowered to thrive? Because when youth are ignored, societies become unstable. When women are excluded, development slows, and when communities fail to address infectious diseases, social vices, poor access, and weak grassroots support systems, the consequences are generational. Across Nigeria, many of the biggest national problems, unemployment, drug abuse, gender inequality, etc., vulnerability do not begin in Abuja alone. They begin in communities. And that means the solutions must also begin there. So today we ask, what does real empowerment look like beyond slogans? And how do we move from intervention to impact? And what must change if young people and women are to live healthier, safer, and more productive lives? Joining us today is Zainab Nasir Ahmad, a passionate advocate for youth and women, the Executive Director of the Youth Society for the Prevention of Infectious Diseases and Social Vices, YOSPACE, and co-chairman of the Kano Network of NGOs, KANET. She has led a range of projects focused on improving the lives of girls, women, and young people at both grassroots and institutional level. Zainab Nasir Ahmad, thank you for joining us on S24 Insight.
Thank you, S24, for having me.
Thank you, too, for coming. It's really important to see what young women are doing in our society, and we want to really, I think, pick your mind and see the way that you're doing some of the work that you do. Let's begin with you as a person. What first pushed you into the work of youth and women?
Okay, watching the problems of youth and women in my society, it's what pushed me to advocacy and community development initiatives, because if you are living in my community, you get to know and see issues coming up with regard to women and girls. For example, in Kano State, we are still the ones that have the highest number of out-of-school children, which more than 50% of them are women, young girls, sorry. And we have the highest number of drug abuse in Kano State from the data of the United Nations. So this is not something that we are supposed to sleep about. Anybody that have the interest of his people at mind, whether you are a politician, whether you are a young person, whether you work with an NGO, this is something that we need to work together and bring change into it. So this pushed me to start doing this. I started advocating for women in order to have pre-sanitary pads. That was almost 7 years ago. So in the process of doing that, I started observing different issues, social issues that needed my attention, from advocacy of their issue of health, education, and the environment that they live in. And you see, when you are talking about youth, my organization, YOSPACE, is an organization that we are dealing with issues of young people, infectious disease, youth participation in politics, youth empowerment, drug abuse. So these are all wide range of things that we are working together to mitigate. We work with different communities, different partners, ranging from government organizations, government agencies, non-governmental organizations, and also the security agencies such as the police and the NDLEA. They are all our partners because they are the custodians of security. And if you look at Kano, for example, Kano is a state that characterized by different crimes, vices for young people, particularly the issue of thuggery, political thuggery, for now that we are into political season. So this is something that happened. These politicians recruit some young people, give them drugs, and they go violent and cause so many damage to the communities that they live in. So we partner with the police, raise awareness, empower the young people. We did several projects. For example, there is a particular project which is very close to my heart, which we changed the lives of over 600 thugs that repented, dropped their arms. We did it in partnership with the police, and they drop their arms and they are integrated back to the society. And it really mitigates the level of violence that we have in Kano State. So these are some of the
things that you do. That's really laudable for me, because it takes a village. It takes all of us to change the narrative in our community. You lead YOSPACE and also serve as co-chair of KANET. What problem were you trying to solve when you entered the space specifically? You said initially it was period poverty, that's padding girls. And what actually stimulates you beyond just the period poverty? Because you've mentioned empowerment in different areas, yes, addressing all of the challenges that you've come in contact with by even training young persons that are into some social vices, etc. Yes. What is that thing that drives you most?
Passion.
Passion.
I'm very passionate about bringing change in my community. So, and apart from that, when I started as advocating for against period poverty in my community, then I entered the civil society space. And now I am currently the co-chair of the Kano Network of NGOs, which is a big coalition that have more than 200 numbers of non-governmental organizations registered under it, and which we are all advocating for various society issues. We are the voice of our community. We engage the government. We issue press conferences on issues that need the attention of the masses, and we are just like their voice, like I said earlier.
Wow. So when people hear empowerment, it often sounds abstract. In your own words, what does empowerment actually mean?
Empowerment to me means to let someone understand who he is as a person. Yes, it's not about giving him token amount of money or something. The moment you make someone understand that he's a human and he's capable of doing things that can change his lives and change the lives of the community he lives in, then he is definitely empowered.
That's really important because, you know, when we say empowerment, people think it's just giving out items or money or free stuff. Yeah, literally. But I think this is the second time I'm listening to a young person mentioning that empowerment is changing mindset. Yes. And that's really germane.
Because I'm really into awareness, and awareness is just about letting people to understand who they are and what they can do to understand things around them. And I watched firsthand how awareness changed the mindset of people. For example, even the repentant tongues that I mentioned, we give them so much awareness that they realize that they are not supposed to be carrying arms before we even started training them and giving them incentives that they will stand on their own. So empowerment is basically letting someone to know who he is as a person.
They should be self-aware.
Yes, self-aware.
Would you say that it's really making much impact like you think it should?
Definitely. It's making a lot of impact beyond giving. You cannot just come and give somebody 20,000 and 50,000 like people tag as empowerment. It's not something that is going to be sustainable for them. But if you empower their minds to be self-aware, they will think critically to understand what they need. You cannot give me 50,000. That's not what I need. Maybe I need education. Maybe I need a scholarship. Maybe I need to go to learn a particular skill.
Trade.
Yes, so don't give me money. Just let me be self-aware to understand what I want as a person.
Oh, that's really lovely. And I hope that you've created a network of change makers like yourself, like giving it back for people who you've changed mindset, like the thugs that repented. You change their minds to also give back to the society by also changing the minds of other people.
We always have ambassadors across any community that we visited for any activity. We have ambassadors, we have clubs that they serve as people that represent us, whether we are there or not, in order to continue from where we stop, so that the initiatives that we bring to them is going to be sustainable.
You will not die. Thank you. That's really laudable. You all cut across health, social vices, youth and women. Why do you see these issues as connected rather than separate?
Because they are the most vulnerable in the society. When you come to any society, the youth, the women, and the children, they are the ones that needed support the most. For example, women in my community, Kano, they are the ones battling poverty. And the young people are just growing up and they are confused sometimes on what to do next in their lives. Probably they just completed their studies, or they are trying to complete their studies. They don't know where life is going to take them, so they needed a helping hand to support them. And children, yes, definitely children, they are people that need to be catered for, because there are so many issues of abuse of children. We have the Almajiri issue, we have child molestation, child neglect, different sorts of issues affecting children, even though we push for policies. For example, we have the Child Protection Bill, which has been passed into law in Kano State, and we are currently advocating for Youth and Sport Development Bill, which we work with the Kano State House of Assembly, and we are currently pushing for the bill to be passed into law, so that it will bring so many policies that are going to change the lives of Kano young people. And we also have the WE policy for women's empowerment in Kano State too, which we are still pushing. It has been launched but not yet been passed, and we are hoping it's going to be passed into. Yes.
Yeah. So what do you learn about grassroots from the kind of policies you see in rooms, the changes that come about by what you do. What did grassroots really teach you?
Grassroots, they are the people that we don't always listen to them. They are not on the panel, they are not on the media, they are just in their communities doing their things. So there are so many things that they can offer to communities, to the societies, and they are people that if they are being empowered, they are going to change the world. So that's why I always focus on communities, local communities, because I believe they are the ones that are going, if we make them developed, then we have 50% of our problems been solved. Yes.
That's really amazing. In all your years of advocacy and project work, what has broken your heart the most, and what has given you the most hope to say there will be a better future?
What's always broken my heart is some of our policymakers are not really concerned about the cries of the people. You will do your advocacy, media engagement, and you show them a problem firsthand, but they will still not take it serious. And this always breaks my heart. Yes. And what always gives me hope are the masses, the young people. They're always passionate and hopeful that change is going to happen despite all the setbacks, despite all the challenges in the community.
That's really amazing. I see that you're getting emotional because you're so passionate about this. Yes. Don't cry. Stay with us. When we return, we move from biography to reality. What exactly are young people and women up against, and why do many interventions still fail to go deep enough? Stay with us. We'll be right back. I see that it's coming back here. Back. If you're just joining us, it's so S24 Inside, and we've been talking with Zainab Nasir Ahmad, a youth advocate that does a lot of things that relates to women and girls and the young persons as well. And this is where we leave theory and enter real life, and most especially because behind every policy discussion are real people. Young girls trying to stay in school, and young men trying to avoid destructive parts, women trying to survive exclusion, and the reality that we're facing this particular time. Let's go back to this conversation, because I knew before we went on that short break, you became emotional. And I love when I see young people doing stuff and they're so passionate about it. I know there must be something that made you feel like tearing up. What was it? Was there an experience that you faced before in your advocacy, for instance, rehabilitating the Turks, that makes you feel, oh my God, I think this is really bad for us?
Actually, there are two things. First of all, when I started the campaign against period poverty, I faced a lot of backlash in the community because they felt this is something that is not supposed to be discussed in the public. So I really almost broke down to just abandon the campaign from the beginning, but consistently and with the support of some partners and people that believe in the cause, it's something that I continue doing, and it became successful. Then secondly, the issue of rehabilitating the Turks, and we are still calling on the Kano state government to fulfill its promise, because we had an event after all the rehabilitation and empowerment stops, and when we had the event, we invited the Kano state government with the Kano state police command and all the other partners that joined us. And when the Kano state government came, it promised to empower all these over 600 repentant Turks. He promised to empower them with education. Anybody that needs education, or anybody that needs a skill, or anybody that wants to go back to school. Yes, so that's the promise. And then we are still advocating for the government to fulfill its promise, because we have this fear that leaving them just like that, they might decide to go back to their old ways, which is not going to be a good thing for Kano State, looking at the political tension that is arising, and these people, leaving them dormant without any skill or anything. You can't just leave them like that. Even though we have been following up with them, they are still with us. We empower them time to time. They they receive a lot of trainings that they're supposed to stand on their own. But, you know, government intervention is something beyond what the individual or any organization can do. So we are just calling on the government to do.
So there won't be relapse?
Yes.
Yes, we pray that the Kano State government will rescind or go back to the promises that they make and be able to implement something that will support this young person, so we don't get the ripple effect of them going back into what they used to know. From your experience, what are the biggest barriers facing girls, women and youth in communities where you work, especially in Kano?
First of all, lack of awareness, then poverty, then unemployment, and lack of education. These four things. If they are empowered and if they have education and if they are self-aware, then almost 90% of their problems is going to be solved. Yes.
Wow. And which is dangerous today, poverty itself or the hopelessness that comes with poverty?
Hopelessness. Yes.
So let's go into what you started with. Infectious diseases and social vices quietly reinforce one another in vulnerable communities. In what ways do these two things affect us on a daily?
They are always affecting us. You see, talking about infectious disease, I always talk about awareness, because young people make a lot of mistakes while growing up, like engaging into some issues that they are not supposed to engage into, social vices, and they sometimes encounter with different kind of disease. That's why we advocate against HIV, TB, and now in Kano that we have the Kano Center of Disease Control and the State Agency Against AIDS. We partner with them in order to give young people support that fall victims to such kind of issues that comes to infectious disease. And when talking about social biases, it's like almost all the problems of the society. It covers almost all the problems, ranging from women, young people. You see, even the issue of drug abuse is a social biases. Issue of political thuggery is a social biases. Pawn snatching, which thanks to the Kano State Police Command, they are working day and night in order to mitigate such issue, is going down. Yes, but it was something that Kano battle. You cannot go. You cannot go outside
for that.
Yes, with your phones
at some time.
Yes, but now the issue has gone down. Thankfully. Yes.
What role does ignorance or lack of access to correct information play in making these problems worse?
Have the information, and if you are ignorant of issues, you will make a lot of blunders. And I think that's the major issues that cause all these problems that we are facing. Yes.
Many young people are energetic but deeply frustrated. What do you think they are really asking society for?
We are discussing earlier about this issue because young people, they are the ones that have the energy, they are the ones that have the population, they are the ones that have they are the wealth of every nation. Why are they always frustrated? Because they still don't have chances. They are not being invited to speak in the table of decision making. Nobody listening to them. They have been abandoned by the society, so they are just roaming around confused. They don't know what to do, and this leads to all the problems they are facing.
And if we don't address it, we're sitting on it, or on a time bomb that exploded,
a big time bomb. Yes.
Do you think we are doing enough to prepare young women and girls not to just survive but to lead? Do you think we're doing enough?
We are not doing enough.
What can we do?
Because if you look at for women to lead, women still shun away from participating in politics. Why? The educated women, they shun away from participating in politics. They just leave the space to the ignorant ones because they fear that their image is going to be tarnished if they enter politics. We just allow the bad ones to dominate the space. And those ones, they don't have awareness and they don't have education. And we are not willing to give them such awareness. We just consider them as people that are not even, like, they are not important in the society. So basically, we are educating the ones that already have the education, and we abandon the ones that needed the education. So we are not doing enough.
What can we do enough? Because it's really a big issue. There must be a reason why educated ones don't want to go into politics, because a lot consider politics as a dirty game. Yes. And then if you involve yourself in politics in a way, you would not come out the same person. Yes. So I'm sure there are things that make people run away from it. What can we do to change the narrative?
What we really need to do is these people that don't have education, we need to bring them closer and change their mindset to understand that they are assets and there are ways that they can support themselves and their communities and participate actively and productively in politics without damaging themselves. And these educated ones, we need to encourage them and advocate for them to participate in politics. And politics is not something to shun away from. Politics, yes, it's dirty and but it depends on the individual. That's what I always see.
Yes, individual, but the system also affects you.
It affects, but if we come together, we have the population, we can change the narratives.
Thank you. Yes. That's really germane. You've mentioned something very key earlier, saying that when you started advocacy on period poverty, people were like, let me do Ingausa, and you make a cha on what you were doing. But you decided to consistently do what you were doing and stuff. What are other issues you think the society don't want to talk about, but they are very important to bring them to bear?
You know, issues of women, they are always sensitive issues. Anytime you speak women's empowerment, people tag you as a feminist. Especially if you are from Kano, for example, people will tag you as a feminist. You want women to come out and take the space of men. You want the women to come and fight the men, which that's not how it is. But people have this kind of narrative.
Stereotypes.
Yes, stereotypes, that's the word.
So when interventions fail, is it usually because of poor funding, poor design, poor follow-through, or lack of sincerity?
Lack of sincerity, yes.
Why?
Because if you are sincere, there are some interventions that don't really need a lot of funding. You can even fund yourselves as a community. I think it's high time we stop thinking about receiving funding from elsewhere, from outside the country or somewhere. We have the wealth that we can support ourselves if we really believe in the cause that we are going to advocate and work for. Yes.
Thank you, and let's move on. But diagnosis, we've been talking about issues and a bit of solution, but diagnosis is not enough. The tougher question is this: if we know the problems, what does meaningful change actually look like? Now let's go to the segment where we'll talk about from programs to real impact that you see that your programs actually make. You've led many projects and programs. What separates a project that looks good on paper from one that genuinely changed people's lives?
It depends on the participation of the people in the projects. You can design something good, something nice that you will say, if I implement this project, then I'm going to change so many issues affecting, for example, women's, young people. But if you don't have the right team, if you don't have the right participation, sincerity, and accountability, then it's not going to work for you. Yes.
Wow. What does sustainable impact look like in youth and women's development work? Sustainable impact, what does it look like in youth and women development work?
A real empowerment. A real empowerment, yes.
Which is the mindset shift, self-awareness and mindset shift, right? In what ways will you say, or how important is local trust in making community intervention work?
Yes, like I said, if you have the trust in the community, then your work is definitely going to succeed.
Work.
Yes, I said whether you have the funding, if you have people trusting in you. For example, you will be surprised how people that are carrying arms, people are running away from them. But we were in this stadium playing football with them, with the police. So if not because of trust, things like this will never happen. And the issue of period poverty, now we have so many communities, so many organizations participating, advocating, and we have even parents reaching out to us, telling us that because of our campaign, now they have sanitary pad as part of their budget, community school also, and even community leaders. So this is something that is only trust and impact that will give you such sustainable initiative.
What strategies do you think we can employ to make sure girls and women are not treated only as beneficiaries, but as decision makers? Like you've mentioned, sit on the table.
Yes, sitting on the table, getting education, getting the right information, awareness is really going to bring a change.
So what role should NGOs play differently if they want to be taken seriously as development actors, considering that if NGOs go to communities, people run away from them and think they're just for the photo ops, just to get funding from international donors and all of that. What should NGOs do differently so that people understand that they are bringing impact, not just photo ops? Of course, there are the bad ones that would come for photo ops and make money and not come back to society.
You have to build trust with the community, like I said earlier. If they trust in you, they will not see you as somebody bringing doing photo ops or trying to you are not sincere with them. But the moment when you build trust with them, in fact, sometimes they will be the ones bringing issues. We go to several places for advocacies, and they will even reach out to you telling you another problem or another issue that which you did not consider as an issue in such community.
Oh, because you've built trust.
Yes.
Are we measuring success correctly, or are too many organizations counting activities instead of outcomes?
You know, every organization have its way of doing things. And I mentioned that we can fund ourselves. We should not always rely on pouring pundits. So if you are relying on pouring pundits all the time, you just want to design your report, retire what you spend and send it to your donors. So definitely some NGOs, in order to rush to the timeline, they will just do as they wish. But if you are an organization that believes you just want to make an impact, whether you have the funding or you don't have the funding. So you will definitely relax and work the way it's supposed to be and measure your impact and measure your sustainable impacts through your work.
If there is more scale for you, I mean, in terms of funding and more institutional support, what would you prioritize first now, especially now that we're approaching electioneering period?
I'm going to prioritize massive awareness for young people, mobilize them to participate and shun away from all forms of violence and engaging in drug abuse. And also the political actors themselves. We did something in 2023, which we are planning to do it now in 2027. We get all the political spokesperson, because they are the ones on social media and the media instigating hate speech and fake news, sensitize them and show them the crimes they are committing, because people are just doing things without understanding the gravity of what they are doing. So they need to be sensitized, to be aware of their crimes, so that if they commit also such kind of crimes during election, the security is there to take care of them. Yes.
Oh, that's lovely. And this brings us to more deeper issue. If we want stronger communities, we cannot keep building weak systems around the people we say we care about. Yes. We do not need to end despair just all of a sudden. We just need to put in the process, the system, etc. What must government do more seriously if truly they want to support youth and women development?
They need to empower and strengthen institutions that are supporting women and girls. For example, we have different centers, agencies. For example, with the Ministry of Women's Affairs, we have, for example, in Kano, we have the Sana Abacha Youth Center. We have the Dangote Skill Acquisition, but they are not as functional as they are supposed to be, looking at the massive population of Kano people. So government really needs to build those centers, strengthen the ones we have, and encourage more people to participate in skill acquisition and focus on quality education. We still have poor system of education. You'll go to secondary school, you understand, you will see things that will just terrify you when it comes to education. So that's why we are producing graduates that they have graduated, but they haven't learned anything because of the system of the education. So the government really needs to focus on that.
Do you think it's just the government? Because if you mention the skill centers like the Dangote Skill Center and Mariam Abacha, you find out that I thought there are people apart from government that are supposed to monitor
even
this.
Our philanthropists, we all need to put hands on deck. But I always say if the government have the buy-in of such kind of issues, almost 70% of the problem is solved. Yes.
What must community leaders and parents begin to do differently?
The community leaders need to step up. They are the custodians of any community, and also the parents, they need to encourage their children and take care of them. You cannot just, we always discuss about this in the north, the issue of, yes, Al-Majiri, you give birth to children and throw them out of the street. We have street-connected children in Kano. We recently did an intervention. You'll be surprised, these are not Al-Majiri, but they are children that their parents abandoned them to the street. They are sleeping on the street. The government camped them in a particular, there are almost 1,000 of them. I'm really in shock still seeing the number, but they are not Al-Majiri. So the parents need to understand their responsibilities. You cannot just give birth and throw your children out. It's not fair, even to them and to the community that you live in. Yes.
So let's get to your final thought before we loosen up a bit. There's something we call rapid fire in S24. What must this generation do now so that the next one does not inherit the same circle of problems?
We need to have a focused generation. Even though from the way things are going, we have a lot of work to do. Because we are talking about Gen Zs. The Gen Zs are not even focused on education. Their real focus is on phones, Snapchat, social media. So the parents, I always emphasize they need to do more. and the community at large, and education. We need to do more to understand, to shape their thinking, to understand that they have a role and responsibility to do beyond their personal lives. Yes.
Thank you so much. And it's been intense talking to you on this subject matter. Let's loosen up a bit before we call it a wrap. We do something in S24 called rapid fire. Simple answers, short, very yes or no, or just giving maybe a brief sentence on it. Let's start with this one. Empowerment or tokenism?
Empowerment.
Real empowerment.
Yes.
Because I've learned that real empowerment
yes.
is changing mindset and making people self-aware.
Indeed.
Protection or opportunity?
Can I say but?
Choose one.
Protection.
Protection?
Yes.
Okay. Why did you choose protection?
If you are protected, you can get an opportunity. But if you don't have protection, then you will not even have access to opportunities.
Okay. Awareness or action?
Awareness.
Funding or sincerity?
Sincerity.
One word that describes Nigerian youth today. Just one word.
Nigerian youth? Can I say energy?
Energy.
Yes,
okay.
They are full of energy.
Energy,
yes.
Okay. One word that describes Nigerian women today.
Women. Women. Only one word?
Just one word.
Wow, may I have a sentence? But one word like women.
Just like you said, youths are energetic. Women
yes,
should
they are
find a word.
Yes, women are also energetic.
Okay.
Yes, and they are the like mothers of the nation.
Yeah, well, I think as a woman, I would say women are resilient.
Yes.
Okay, one thing society must stop doing to change our mindset.
The society should stop abandoning their responsibilities.
One thing leaders must start doing as well.
Leaders should be accountable for all their actions.
One thing young people must reject.
They should reject being used.
Being used?
Yes.
For some maybe bad vices?
Yes.
In one line, what does a better future require? Just one sentence.
A better future requires self-awareness, it requires education, and it requires understanding your society and the role you are supposed to play.
So if you're to leave a message in the mind of a young person and women that are committed to development in our society, what would that message be for you?
You have to be consistent, you have to be diligent, and you also have to be resilient.
Zainab, Nasir, Ahmad, thank you so much for joining us on S24 Insight. This afternoon, our conversation reminds us of something simple but powerful. Development is not real if it excludes women or youth. Progress is not sustainable if it abandons youth, and society cannot call itself healthy if too many people are forced to survive where they should be allowed to thrive. The real test of leadership is not what we say about the vulnerable, it is what we build around them. Systems, support, safety, opportunity, dignity, like Zainab mentioned during this conversation, because when girls, women and young people rise, communities rise with them. I am Halima Abdurrauf, and this has been S24 Insight on S24 Television. Bye for now. See you again soon.